Welcome to the Fabulous at 50 podcast, where we are changing the aging narrative. I'm your host, Joanne Newduck, and I'm thrilled to bring you stories that matter and celebrate your place in the world. As an advocate for lifelong learning, health, and women's empowerment, I believe it's never too late to live the life you've always imagined. Through lively and informative interviews with inspiring guests, we'll explore a wide range of topics relevant to our global sisterhood of vibrant, inquiring women just like you. Join me for today's episode, and let's start changing the aging narrative together. Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I have a question for you. Why do we need magnesium anyways? Well, we're going to be talking about that today. And I have an incredible guest here that knows all about magnesium. She is the co-owner and managing director of ITL Health. And I welcome Meaghan to the show today. Welcome, Meaghan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super excited about this because, as people know, I'm big into health and supporting women in menopause, and magnesium is a conversation that comes up. Do we need it? Do we not need it? What kind? What not kind? I've heard it's good, but then it gives you bowel issues. Like, there's just all over the place. And I'd love to dispel some myths or clear some of the fog and confusion and really find out. So why don't we're going to get to all of those questions, but why don't we just start off with, why do we need magnesium? Why, if somebody just says, well, why can't I just get it in my food? Why do I need to add magnesium? What would be the bonus to me?
That's a great question because I know a lot of people, they aim to eat healthy and they want to get all their nutrients through food, which is a great thing to do. But when it comes to magnesium, it's very difficult to get through food. And there's a few different reasons why. Number one, we have a reduction in our soil levels of magnesium since the 70s. Even about 15 years ago, I haven't seen any updated studies, but about 15 years ago, there was a 30% reduction in our soil since the 70s. So that obviously means
30%. That's
30%
significant.
significant for the amount that then could get into our food. Then beyond that, research shows us that we only absorb 30 to 40% of the magnesium from our food into our body. So if you see, from this food, I get 100 milligrams of magnesium, research would show us you're probably only absorbing 100 milligrams of that 300 milligrams, right?
Wow. So, like, really, if I'm hearing that, you need to have 3 times the amount of magnesium coming into your system
Yeah, from the
so that you
just
actually get what is ideal. So this
yes.
is a bit like this is sort of the scenario I use for some other vitamins as well, that would be like, if we need to catch 2 fish a day, do we want to go to a pond that has 2 fish, or a pond that has maybe 12 fish, or at least 6 fish, so that we're
Yes.
guaranteed to get those?
Love
Got
that
it.
enough. Yeah. So
Yeah, but
so
it's
really,
just like, yeah.
we
Okay,
don't we don't
actually,
we're
I
not
did
able to
not know
absorb a
those
lot.
stats, and I've done so much education through your other educator, Leanne, that's going to be at our upcoming event. That's phenomenal. All right, keep going. Why else do
Well,
we
and
need
then
magnesium?
beyond that, research shows us that when food is processed, it loses 85% of the magnesium it had. So you're already at a
Oh my
reduction in
God.
soil. You're already not absorbing much, and then you're losing, if it's a processed food, 85%. And everybody likes to think they eat healthy, and I know a lot of people make great efforts in their diet, but we get a lot of processed food in our diet, regardless of how healthy we eat. And we're still talking processed food from a health food store. It's still processed, and magnesium
That's
is
right.
lost in processing. And magnesium is
Unless,
a nutrient that's added back easily. Calcium is fortified in foods,
yeah.
magnesium isn't.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's
So
like, that is phenomenal. So you would have to, and so by this, that there's less magnesium in the nutrients or the ingredients anyways, you're losing 85% of it, 30% is absorbed. There, you're really not getting enough from your food, because the caloric intake you would need to be able to build those numbers up. So I am totally seeing why it's important to take a magnesium supplement.
and
But
if I can go a little bit further
Yeah,
too, just to
yeah.
remind people. Some people might say, well, I don't eat any processed food, and that's wonderful if you don't. But magnesium is also significantly lost during cooking. Now, we don't have an
Mm,
exact number because there's different methods of cooking. There's steaming, which would obviously be the least that
right.
magnesium would be. There's boiling is like they actually just say it like the numbers are most significant with boiling. So
Okay.
in that
Like that's the
regard,
most lost boiling?
yes, boiling would cause the most magnesium to be lost through
Okay.
food. It's a little bit like the food processing, a lot gets lost. So then, you might have somebody say, well, I'm just going to eat all my food raw. That way I get all the magnesium from it. But it gets even further complicated because magnesium is found in a lot of whole foods and a lot of whole grains. But those whole grains and things like spinach and kale contain certain anti-nutrients, so
Hmm.
oxalates, different things that need to be broken down. And if they're not broken down, then they will bind to magnesium and pull magnesium out of the body.
Exactly. Eating raw spinach and kale, people think is really healthy, but it can, I actually really irritated my own stomach because I bought into having green shakes
Mhm.
and it was not good.
It needs
There's
to
a
be
lot of
cooked
people
to
to
break all
read.
that down.
Yeah, when I work with clients, quite often to build up their microbiome of their gut, I want them to steam, lightly steam. You want al dente, so it's cooked but just barely, and we want to build it back slowly so people can actually absorb more nutrients with cooked vegetables quite often.
Exactly. That's wonderful advice because these are the things we need to know how to get the most magnesium out of our food. Don't overcook that spinach because then more magnesium gets lost, but you do need to cook it in order to be able to
Right.
break it down. And that's a big missing piece of the puzzle is we've lost a lot of these nourishing traditions that maybe
Yeah.
our grandparents or ancestors would have, they would have soaked their whole grains. They would have sprouted their nuts. They would have cooked their spinach. And we get fed all this crazy information and we don't always know what's right, right? Like you heard raw spinach is great. I've heard the same thing. You hear all these various things. So you really, in order to get the maximum amount of magnesium from your food, you need to know your way around the kitchen and have the time and desire to learn it and actually do it. And most
Yeah.
people in our world don't, unfortunately.
So the reality is, it does make sense that magnesium should be one of the supplements that we're willing to take to be healthy. So
Totally. And Health Canada says that more than 50% of Canadians don't meet the RDA for magnesium. So,
really,
and that's like who knows what the RDA is and how much they're absorbing through food and right like that's kind of
yeah,
probably Health Canada going, okay, more than 50% of people aren't getting the required 400 milligrams of magnesium through food. But then when we look at the 85% loss and the 30% absorption and everything, like probably none of us are getting enough magnesium.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I get that my head's spinning a little bit on that because not because of what you're saying, but because what I'm already thinking of on a move forward basis. So one of the reasons we need to supplement is because we're not getting enough from our basic diets. So if we sum all of that up, we're not getting enough in our basic diets. So we want to supplement. And what I know, correct me if I'm wrong, let's see if I've learned from Leanne, the teachings. Well, because magnesium, our body can only absorb a certain amount per day, then it flushes the rest out. It's not like you can just stock up. Like once a week, I'm going to have tons of magnesium because that's not going to be as good on your system. It's the type of thing you need a bit every single day. Is that correct?
Completely correct. And although,
I've done
yes,
well. Yay, clap.
yeah,
I'm
make me so
learning.
proud. But the cool thing about that is that we don't then have to be scared about taking magnesium because
Exactly.
our bodies tell us when we have enough and we flush it. It's not this vitamin or mineral that builds up in our body and we can potentially become toxic. Like trust me, if you've ever been somebody that's had too much magnesium, because your bowels flush it. It flushes through your bowels. So we always recommend, we have our RDA of magnesium, but that's everybody's going to have their different threshold because we all have different diets. We all have different stress levels. Stress will deplete magnesium. We all have different activity levels. Activity will deplete magnesium, and on and on. We are all different ages, different genders. And so it's important to figure out your magnesium threshold. So we recommend take more magnesium, take the amount of magnesium until your bowels are comfortably loose. And that's a sign that you've had enough. And I know for myself in December, which is obviously a busy month for Christmas reasons, I have 3 young children. I need more magnesium in December because I'm more active,
Interesting.
doing more. And if I don't increase my magnesium in December, I start to get muscle cramps, which is a telltale sign of magnesium deficiency. So if you're in tune with your body, you can really understand that during more stressful or active periods of your life, that you need more of that vital mineral for the proper
Awesome.
your body.
So I'm going to switch from why we need it because we're not getting enough in our diet to why does our body need it? Like, what does it do in our body?
Great question. This is one of my favorite things to answer because it's always like mind blowing when you hear this. Magnesium is required for 80% of biochemical reactions in our body. So that means
Okay, let's say that again.
80% of biochemical
Oh my
reactions in
gosh.
our body need magnesium. So magnesium is needed for almost everything your body does. And current
Wow.
research translates that to 800 different processes that require magnesium.
800. Okay.
Mhm.
So it is,
So
I would say it's vital.
yes,
Magnesium is
every
vital.
system in our body requires magnesium.
So let's take this a little further. So what happens? What is the main telltale sign that we might be low on magnesium?
Mhm.
And is that at the extreme? Like, are there any signs where it's a subtle that people don't might not know? Because you already mentioned muscle cramps. That's a big sign that you're
Right.
low. What
That's
else
like
might be going on?
so, well, and that's the interesting thing. If before I can answer that, just help people understand a little bit of how magnesium might work in the body.
Okay.
Magnesium is difficult to test for because less than 1% of the magnesium in our body is found in our blood. The rest is found in our soft tissues and bones. So if
Okay.
you go to the doctor and get a blood test and your magnesium levels are fine, that's that's less than 1% of that magnesium. That magnesium has to be in the blood. Our bodies have to keep our magnesium levels in our blood vital, like to that status, in order to keep us alive. So the body can sacrifice other parts, sacrifice the magnesium it basically allows to go there in order to keep some vital functions, right? So, the blood is a telltale example, right? Obviously, we need magnesium in our blood for our heart to pump. Otherwise, we're not alive anymore. But the muscles need a lot of magnesium, but if there's not quite enough magnesium for them, well, I can live through a cramp. It's not pleasant
Right.
or live
Right.
through it, right? So there are different systems that will show up a little bit faster because they're less vital. So muscle cramps is a telltale magnesium deficiency sign. Restless legs is a telltale magnesium deficiency sign, especially because the muscular system uses a lot of magnesium. Every time our muscles relax, they need magnesium. So if they can't relax properly,
Mm,
not enough magnesium. Same with the nervous system. The nervous system requires a lot of magnesium for all that nerve function. So when we don't have enough, the first thing that we notice is restless legs because obviously we need our nerves to move in other vital ways. But if we can't calm our
yeah.
nerves at night, that's again not going to kill us. It's not pleasant at all. But so we start to look at these systems that start to break down. So muscle cramps, restless legs, huge ones. Inability to handle stress is a big one.
Hmm.
Research shows us that when we're stressed, we use up more magnesium, so we deplete faster, but that also when we don't have enough magnesium, we can't handle stress. So if
This
we're
is
the
sounding like society right now. In
completely.
general,
Mhm.
is magnesium deficient
Yes.
because you were talking about, your system can't relax. Let's just cut to the chase. It's like people can't sleep well. We need
Mhm.
magnesium to sleep well, and we
Yes.
need magnesium to handle stress. And since people are chronically stressed, think of the amount, like it makes me wonder how many people potentially could have less anxiety and other issues if they first had enough magnesium in their system.
Completely. And when you mentioned sleep, and if we look at sleep disturbances, most of them are a result of anxiety or
Yeah.
some result of the nervous system not being able to properly relax, whether
Yeah.
it's inability to fall asleep or stay asleep. But most people's problem is to stay asleep. They wake up in the middle of the night, their mind is racing, they can't
Yes.
get back to sleep. That is 100% a telltale sign that your body could need more magnesium because the magnesium goes in there and helps that whole nervous system, the central nervous system, shut down and relax into that deep state at night to keep you asleep
Absolutely.
and ensure that you're not restless. If you're a restless sleeper, flip flopping around the bed, that's another, even if you stay asleep, if you're moving a lot at night, that's, not enough magnesium to get you into that rested state. So those are some
Fascinating.
ones, like, right, like difficulty sleeping, uh, muscle cramps, restless legs. Those are acute symptoms that we would go and be like, I need to solve this. And those are ones that, let's say, a medication couldn't as easily solve. A doctor wouldn't be able to as easily help you with that. But there are also so many indications of needing more magnesium, like metabolic disorders, high blood pressure, heart issues, heart palpitations, high blood sugar. All of those, magnesium is required for all of those actions in the body to dilate the blood vessels, to, improve cellular health in order to be, have better results with insulin, and on and on. So, you know, you could make an argument that most health conditions would be improved with magnesium. I think there was a research done. I forget the amount, or the exact amount, but there were 12 different heart conditions magnesium can help. And there was a decade-long study that actually concluded that magnesium deficiency was a greater risk for heart attack than trans fat and high cholesterol.
Wow. And I'm not surprised. I'm not
Hmm.
surprised because there's so much involved.
Hmm.
And
Heart
I
needs so much.
believe, like, as a healthcare professional, I I look at I like medications can be life-saving. Like, somebody's in a car accident, they need to be rushed to the hospital. We need that. But what we also need to be do is, what do we need to heal? What do we need to build up our resistance so we have the best health? And what can we doing to prevent issues coming on? I like, there's so much, get out and walk and eat right, which is great, but these subtle nuances that taking a magnesium supplement per day can be beneficial, right? And it's very simple to do. So let's switch a little bit in. Actually, no, I'm going to, just before we switch into, I want to know more about magnesium itself, is magnesium and menopause.
Hmm.
And also, so we're going to touch base on that. I just have so many things. We're not going to fit it all in
Oh,
our time here.
I could talk about magnesium
However,
for 8 hours.
I know I'm going to put a little plug going. If you live in the Calgary area, or like, please travel in to visit us in person on April 27th, 2024. That's just coming up very quickly. And you have a representative from your company teaching even more, and it'll be a longer segment than this conversation here about magnesium, because there's so much to navigate, and once we educate ourselves we can help ourselves.
Hmm.
um, I just want to say, while I was listening to you talk, one of the things as a nurse, what I know is that you were saying it can draw, the blood needs a certain blood level in there. So it draws from others, or at least it doesn't, there's no extra to share, right? The
Yeah,
blood is
if it's
selfish. It
limited
needs to
amount
be in there.
available, yeah, it will take what
That's
it needs
right.
to
But
survive, thankfully.
it would have an impact on your bones as well, then. Like,
Completely, yes.
completely. And the reason I'm bringing that up, because one of the biggest issues that happens with women, especially as we get older in midlife, is we go through menopause. Yes, there's the midlife transition, but a lot of my concern is, there is the perimenopause, and we're going to get into that during our event as well, is all the haywire. And that's where all the big focus is. And then people often, and women often, I've heard them go, oh, I'm past that. But the reality is they're not past it. They're in menopause. You're in what we call postmenopause for the rest of your life. And having low estrogen, and we want talking about hormones and replacements and all that is a whole nother conversation. But let's just, having lower estrogen levels, no matter what, is hard on our bones. So can taking magnesium, or what I know you have is a magnesium bone formula as
Mhm.
well, help women, because especially in postmenopause?
So the answer is yes, completely yes. Our society has been very calcium centric for a long time. It's still a lot of the advice given: calcium, calcium, calcium. Calcium is not, it's not a bad thing, but we're often told to take too much calcium, and we forget about all of the other vital nutrients that work with calcium. And we forget that there's a lot of magnesium in our bones. Like, our bones, even though there's a lot of calcium in our bones, there is so much magnesium in our bones. And calcium is still very abundant in our diet and our soils. It's fortified. Calcium is not considered to be a really strong deficiency in our society, but magnesium is. So rather than,
Right.
just slamming the body with a bunch of calcium, we need to look at these other nutrients, magnesium. And then you mentioned our bone formula, a couple key nutrients in there, vitamin D, vitamin K2. These three nutrients, plus we have many others in there, are very common deficiencies. So
Mhm.
we have to look at, why are our bones not strong? You mentioned the hormonal changes. Well, that's a big thing, because when we have lower estrogen, lower testosterone, then our bones, they're just going to become weaker, right? And that can happen to men too. They just don't have it in the same capacity we do. So we have this amazing magnesium based bone formula that combines key nutrients to build the bones, but also helps balance the hormones in order to help with some of this bone health. And then the bonus is, it helps with a lot of the other pain points of menopause, the sleep issues, the moods, the
Mhm.
anxieties, the hot flashes, and even the aches and pains that a lot of women experience through menopause. So it's an all in one. You get that full dose of magnesium plus all of these other nutrients that really help. But the key takeaway here is that magnesium is vital for bone health.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put like a little thing in there where you're saying, well, calcium's not bad. I there are studies that if you ideally we get our calcium from diet, right? And
Mhm.
it is, if you eat salmon and you get canned salmon, squish the bones out, don't pull those out. Things we can get calcium in our diet, but actually it's been shown or suggested that taking a calcium supplement, unless you're being directed by your doctor, can actually be detrimental to cardiac health. So it
Well,
can
that's,
be
yeah.
dangerous. And
And it
so
actually
taking,
shows that
so
the bone fracture rate is not reduced, and the
exactly, there's
the
no benefit.
heart issues are increased. So you're absolutely.
Exactly. So we need to know that.
Mhm.
And what I was like in awe of listening to is by just taking magnesium or like a correct magnesium, because we'll just touch base. We won't go too deep into types of magnesium, but magnesium and the other cofactors that help the calcium. Like it was because we can have calcium in our system, but it's not being properly used to build bones. And
The
let's
calcium
put something out.
flow is the soft tissue, so it will
Yeah,
build up in the arteries and the kidneys and the eyes.
yeah.
You don't have these right nutrients. So you are right. I calcium is not a bad thing, but too much calcium without the right cofactors can be a bad thing.
Exactly. And so making sure that you get the cofactors in there. And I think it's really important for people to understand because I bet there's somebody listening going, what are you talking about, build up bone?
Mhm,
Literally, our bones, just like you cut yourself and it regenerates,
mhm.
bones regenerate. But, like they're constantly, the metabolic process eats up bone in a sense and creates new bone. But unless we have the building blocks in there and it changes as we get older, we're not going to have as stronger bones when we're older than younger. However, we can change the rate in which we get more fragile bones. And
Yes.
that's what like magnesium can do.
Yes, and
So
we're always
yeah,
told it's all about calcium, but it's
yeah,
magnesium, zinc, it's vitamin C. There's so many more nutrients that go into building bones than just calcium.
I love it. So I'm going to ask you, like, put you on the spot here a little bit and just go, so what not putting you on the spot. You're so exuberant with this, which I love because it means you care. So you work for a company called ITL Health. So I'm going to bring your company into here. We've just been talking about magnesium in general. Tell me why, like, you're aligned with the company, you're co-owner. Like, how did you get there? How did
So
you
the
end up being in
company
this
is
position?
family owned. Yeah, so the company is family owned. It was founded by my parents. And I
Fantastic.
am a registered holistic nutritionist by trade. I've worked full time as a nutritional consultant for many years. And I also love business. So, my father always said to me, when the timing's right, when you're ready, there's a position here for you at this company if you would like. And when the timing
Nice.
was right and we were all ready, it was perfect because it's really married everything I love. I love educating, as you can probably tell. A holistic nutritionist is a lot of one on one education. So I still get all this educational aspect I get to learn myself. So I'm still very much in the nutrition world, but I'm also in the business world, and I'm able to have more, like, one of the things I loved about being a nutritionist is that I could affect people's lives and bring positive change. But with this, I can bring even more because I'm able to help sell and educate and bring these pure, well absorbed supplements into the world to, for people to purchase and see a real difference in their results, or sorry, in their health, right? In the results that they get from these supplements. So it's been amazing. I love it. Like I get to work with my family, which, comes with its challenges, but we get along well. And yeah, just the big thing is just the be able to make change and really
Yeah.
dive into the educational aspect.
Well, I kudos to you because I've worked with different companies and there's lots of wonderful companies out there, but there's some that are, I just found that you guys are so enthusiastic in a positive way and willingness, like so generous with your time to educate, because that's so important. And one of the things, watching the time here, but we're good for a minute. What is one of the things that makes your company special with like why your magnesium? Because I know that you're a Canadian company and you're
Mhm,
winning awards. So
mhm.
what makes your magnesium so special?
So the two biggest things we focus on when it comes to our magnesium supplement is purity and absorbability. So anybody that's tried to purchase magnesium gets very confused because there's a lot of different forms of magnesium, and by forms, you know, to come into the body in a supplement form, magnesium needs to be attached to what we call a carrier molecule. That carrier molecule is actually what brings that magnesium molecule into the body. So there's lots of different options for carrier molecules, but some of them are better at bringing the magnesium in than others, and some are cheaper than others, and some are less pure than others. So we really delve into the research going, okay, how can we make the purest magnesium supplement possible while also making it the best absorbed possible, because both of
Right.
those are very important to us, right? So we're not going to go with a cheap form that maybe looks like there's a lot of magnesium, but what the consumer doesn't know is that 90% of it isn't getting absorbed. And then on that note, too, we really focus on the education. So helping people understand how to pick the right supplement for them and what the best form, the best medium, the best, supplement to improve their magnesium health. And then I'm very proud to say we've also done it in an affordable way for the average Canadian.
It
We're not
is.
we don't charge, I always say we don't charge a premium for purity. We still make it so that we're price point, in the mid range with the other supplements so that people can still afford to be able to buy a pure and well absorbed magnesium supplement.
I know I was happy to buy some of your product and it was not quite, it was about half price of what I was buying in another one, thinking I was getting absolutely pure. So I know that it can get boggle the mind, but let's just touch base, just say throw a few names out there because there's magnesium citrate, there's magnesium gluconate, there's magnesium oxide, there's like what would you tell someone to look for?
So magnesium bisglycinate is a really nicely absorbed form. It's magnesium attached to glycine. The glycine is really good at getting the magnesium in the body. Some people hear that magnesium can cause bowel upsets, and some forms can, like magnesium oxide. If you take, you can't take much magnesium oxide without getting bowel upset. So magnesium bisglycinate avoids all of that. It doesn't cause any water to be drawn to the bowels. But the problem is that a lot of companies do mix it with magnesium oxide.
I
So you
saw
have
that
to use
recently.
very carefully. It
I
will say it in the
Yeah.
ingredients, right? It will say pure magnesium bisglycinate, unfortunately, but you have to look at the ingredients. And if it has magnesium oxide in it, it will say magnesium bisglycinate and magnesium oxide. So a pure form of magnesium bisglycinate is an excellent choice. And our company does one extra step with purity. We don't manufacture with any lubricants in our machines. So even if you find just a magnesium bisglycinate not being mixed with any other forms, they often have what's called a magnesium stearate, which is kind of like a chalky substance to help the raw material flow through the machine, or silicone dioxide or things like that. We don't do any of that. So ours are
Mhm.
completely pure. We value transparency with our company, so we're not going to try to pretend there's something in there that there's not. And then the other really good form for people that don't like to swallow capsules is an ionic magnesium citrate. So by ionic, I mean like it's an activated form. So magnesium citrate in a capsule or tablet won't be that well absorbed because the body doesn't know how to break it down properly. But when you take it in the activated form, which has to be a powder that actually activates, so you cannot get that form in a capsule, then that's a even more economical form than the bisglycinate, and it's a great form for children and people that can't swallow capsules or tablets and would prefer to take a drink.
Amazing. And that, I'll be honest, full disclosure here, I am absolutely sold on your product because one of the issues that has been going on with me that I've shared with people over the last year is that I've been dealing with some significant migraine.
Mm.
And high dose magnesium along with some other vitamins can help, and it has been helping me. So I'm taking a mix during the morning. I'll take the bisglycinate, and then at in the evening taking that I call it my witch's brew because I love how you put the powder in and then add a bit of water and it bubbles up a bit.
Yeah, you can
Like
see it activating.
it's fun. I personally am not so much into the flavors. I just go for the natural because there's a bit of citrate in there. It has just a lemony and it's just a warm little drink. It's like having a cup of tea at bedtime. I have had the absolute best sleeps. Like it just like zonkered out. So you are definitely preaching to the choir here, but I wanted our listeners to hear what's going on. And I was talking to a girlfriend the other day about she's super excited to come to the event and she's actually going to be one of the vendors there as well and has a wonderful business. And she said, I literally, she listened to, I guess it was a different podcast that was talking about magnesium.
Mhm.
And she goes, I went in my cupboard and found all the ones with oxide and threw them out.
Ah,
She goes,
nice. Yes.
well, for her, because she was having bowel issues and she thought, I cannot take magnesium. She didn't understand that it was sort of the
Wrong
cheaper
one.
filler magnesium, shall we call it, that many companies use, right? That it's not quite the pure good ones.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And that's the problem
super.
that people don't know that, right? So the educational component is important when it comes to
And
magnesium.
even in health food stores, I'm not going to say which one, but I walked into a health food store the other day because I hadn't quite got my supply of your stuff yet. And I needed a couple of days. And I went, oh, I'm looking for kind of a pure bisglycinate. And they went, oh, here's some magnesium here. And I picked it up and it looked like a nice brand. I picked it up. It's, as you said, on the out front of the label, it's saying pure. But when I looked there, sure enough, a good portion of it was oxide, magnesium
Mhm.
oxide. And I pointed this out to her. And she was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. And I'm like,
It's very
and this isn't
unfortunate.
that, this isn't a vitamin health food store.
Yeah, and like you said, the staff don't know it because it's labeled as such, and unfortunately, Health Canada
See,
allows that. So,
that's
then we
unfortunate.
assumption, but it's really important to read labels, and it's really important
Yeah.
to look at the value. Not, I shouldn't say the values. Look at the company that you're purchasing from. To make sure that you understand what's in their formulas.
Absolutely. And I know you have like high quality, there's the regular magnesium. We already talked about the bone formula that adds in some extra cofactors that really help. So, um, like this has been so enlightening. I've written down notes ahead of time. And I know that Leanne from your company is going to be educating at our event on April 27th. It's called Radiate Your Best Life. And it's a women's health and wellness symposium. And, this is just one of the talks, but one of the main talks. We're so grateful that you've come on board as a sponsor. We have, like, it's a wonderful partnership because, I want to get the word out, get your magnesium into you. And we're so thrilled that you're coming on board and doing that education. So, as we wind up, why don't we do just a little bit of a recap in a sense? Like, what would you say are the three most important takeaways for somebody after today's episode?
Oh, great question. I would say number one, you need to take a well-absorbed magnesium supplement. It's very
Okay.
difficult to get magnesium from your food. So takeaway number one, take a well-absorbed magnesium supplement. Number two, get educated. So
Yeah.
understand why we need to supplement with certain nutrients, and also get educated about the best ones to take, right?
Yeah.
So the right forms for your needs. And then three, when it comes to supplementation, is find a company that you can trust, so that you know that you are getting the right products for your needs. And if I may be so bold as to plug our company, we have a contact us form on our website,
Yeah.
itlhealth.ca. ITL stands for in the light, as we really strive to have transparency and purity and honesty in everything we do. So itlhealth.ca, there's a contact us form. If you fill it out, we'll get back to you if you have any questions or confusion. And then also in terms of education, the event on the 27th is an amazing thing. You'll learn so much. Follow us on our social channels at ITL Health, and you'll see lives and lots to learn about magnesium. And then of course, keep listening to this podcast because there's a wealth of information on it as well.
Thank you so much. And of course, we're going to have all of that contact information in the show notes. And I realized I didn't know what ITL stands for. I think that's beautiful. Now I get the
Mhm.
sunburst as part of
Mhm.
your logo,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like that's lovely. Thank you. It's been a joy to talk to you. I kind of nerd out on health education here, especially when it's something we can take control of our own health.
Mhm.
So, Meaghan, I so appreciate you and all of the people in your company, and obviously a shout out to your parents for starting this company in the first place. And I hope to have you back on in the future. And I look forward to learning what Leanne's going to share because I learned so much today.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
awesome.
Thanks everybody for
Take care.
listening. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. But before you leave, I'm curious. What pearl of wisdom are you taking away from today's episode? I do hope it held some inspiration or information for you to live your best life. If you are not yet part of our sisterhood, I invite you to join our community by visiting our website, fabulousat50.com, and you'll receive a free copy of our ebook, Make Mine Fabulous, 21 Ways to Energize Your Life. It is packed with loads of tips and tricks. Plus, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review to let us know what you think. Remember, keep choosing fabulous. It's never too late to live the life you deserve. Catch you on the next episode.